All right, let's talk about something that's got the whole world holding its breath. The Eid strike.
So let's get right into it. This was way more than just another regional flare-up. We're talking about a surprise attack, tensions that were already simmering now boiling over, and consequences that are literally spreading across the globe.
Now, to really get why this strike sent such huge shock waves, you have to look at the win. The timing? Yeah, that was no accident. It was a very deliberate, very powerful message.
Here's the bottom line. Iran launched a major military strike. But what took this from a regional conflict to front-page news all over the world? The calendar. It all went down on Eid. And for anyone who isn't familiar, Eid is one of the most important religious holidays in Islam. It's supposed to be a time for peace, for family, for reflection. So you can imagine launching a massive attack on a day like that. Well, it's a statement. A really loud one. It's guaranteed to get everyone's attention and just crank up the shock value.
Okay, so we've got the timing down. Now let's break down the strike itself. What actually happened? How did this whole operation unfold?
From what analysts are seeing so far, a few key things stand out.
First, this wasn't some random attack. The targets were strategic, probably to show off their reach and what they're capable of. Second, the sheer scale of it was unprecedented. A huge step up from anything we've seen before. It also caused a lot of real, physical damage. And maybe the biggest takeaway? It's completely upended the fragile stability of the entire region.
So how do we know all this? Well, it's like putting together a giant, complicated puzzle. Analysts are using hard data, things like satellite images to see the actual damage on the ground. They're looking at military reports to figure out what was targeted. But then comes the hard part. They have to sift through all the official statements from governments, which, let's be real, are mostly PR, to try and figure out the real motive. It's this constant battle between hard facts and the stories people want you to believe.
And that, right there, is the million-dollar question, isn't it? The one everyone is asking. Forget the what for a second. It's all about the why. Why now? What was the endgame here? That's the puzzle that has every diplomat and analyst working around the clock. Look, something this big doesn't just happen in a bubble. The second it happened, it sent off a tidal wave of reactions from capitals all over the world. And of course, every country is looking at this through the lens of its own interests. So let's get into that global response.
First up, the United States. Their big concern is destabilization. For Washington, this isn't just about one single attack. It's about the dominoes that could fall next, what it means for their allies, for the global oil supply, and for the overall stability of a region where they have massive military and economic stakes.
Then you have Israel. Their reaction, as you might expect, is a lot sharper. Listen to the words they're using. Direct threat, decisive response. This comes from a place where national security sees something like this as, well, not just destabilizing, but potentially an existential threat, and that demands a really strong, unified response from their allies.
And then there are the European nations. Their key phrase is maximum restraint. You have to remember their geographic proximity to the Middle East means that if this thing escalates, they feel the effects directly, everything from their energy supply to potential refugee crises. So for them, the number one goal is to find a diplomatic way out of this, and fast.
So here's why all this matters. These different reactions, they're not just press releases. They are the opening moves in a global chess match where the stakes are incredibly high. Every country's position is driven by its own core national interests, and the path we go down next, whether it's towards a wider conflict or some kind of fragile peace, it's all going to depend on how these competing interests smash into each other or somehow find a way to line up.
All right, that brings us to the big picture. Let's zoom out a bit. Is this just another crisis, one more to add to the list, or are we actually watching a fundamental shift, a real turning point in the geopolitical landscape?
And this really shows you just how much has changed. Before this strike, you had this kind of fragile stability, right? It was tense, but it was usually managed. Big powers would fight their battles through other groups, through proxies. But now, the whole region is on high alert. The game has changed. We've moved from the risk of proxy wars to the very real danger of countries fighting each other directly. And that is putting all the old ways of doing diplomacy under incredible strain.
And make no mistake, these shockwaves are being felt far beyond just the Middle East. Experts are warning about what this means for global security. They're talking about huge economic fallout. I mean, just think about what could happen to gas prices. And it's a massive new stress test for our whole international diplomatic system. A system that, frankly, was already looking a little shaky.
You hear this phrase popping up again and again from experts, a turning point. It really captures just how serious this is.
The idea is that the old rules, the unwritten rules of how things worked in the region, they might not apply anymore. We're really in uncharted territory now.
So as all the pieces on this new geopolitical chessboard start to move, we're all left with one massive, looming question. The entire world is watching, but the honest truth is, nobody really knows what happens next.